Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're diving into a pretty chilling narrative from our source material. It's a story that really digs into the dangerous and honestly sometimes fatal cost of absolute truth. You know, we always say we want the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, right? Well, as we're about to see in this incredibly fascinating and deeply unsettling story, finding out what is real can actually be the exact thing that destroys us.
Have you ever looked into a mirror and just kind of felt like it was looking back at you? You know that momentary shiver when the reflection just feels a little too deep, like someone else is in there? Keep that exact feeling in mind, because that is precisely where our story kicks off today.
Section 1. The Skeptic's Discovery.
Okay, let's meet our protagonist, Emma. Emma was a journalist whose entire living and honestly her entire professional reputation was completely based on exposing fake ghost stories using pure, unadulterated logic. She was a hardcore skeptic. And this brilliantly sets up our core conflict. On one side, you've got Emma's ironclad logic, and on the other side, an impossible object she stumbles across on a freezing October evening in a dusty little antique shop called Curiosities. Surrounded by all these ticking clocks, she spots a large silver-framed mirror that honestly just looks a little too perfect.
Now, as she's admiring it, an elderly shopkeeper just kind of appears out of nowhere. No smile, no greeting, he just quietly begs her not to buy it. And when she jokingly asks if the thing is haunted, he delivers this incredibly stark warning. He says, "It doesn't show your reflection, it shows your truth." So what does Emma do? Well, being Emma, she literally rolls her eyes, laughs out loud, tells the guy she's heard way better ghost stories, and she buys the whole shebang anyway. It's a moment of pure tragic irony that basically sets this whole nightmare into motion.
Section 2. The First Whispers.
So, Emma's comfortable, purely logical worldview? Yeah, it's about to be violently shattered right in the supposed safety of her own bedroom. She lugs the mirror home, and for hours, absolutely nothing happens. But then, at exactly 12:01 a.m., she walks past it, and she hears it, a soft, almost impossible-to-catch whisper echoing right there in her totally empty apartment. Emma. She freezes in her tracks. The reflection looks completely normal, but then the mirror speaks again. It tells her, "Don't answer tomorrow's phone call."
The really crucial thing to notice here is just how rapidly this impossible object weaves itself into her daily life. Just look at this timeline. She buys it on an October evening. By 12:01 a.m., boom, she gets her first whisper. The very next noon, her phone rings from an unknown number. Remembering the whisper, she decides to ignore it. An hour later, she finds out it was a highly sophisticated bank scam that actually ended up costing her coworkers thousands of dollars. The mirror literally saved her. Then, by the next night, the mirror warns her not to trust her editor, Daniel, and sure enough, the next afternoon, she discovers Daniel had been secretly stealing credit for one of her investigations. The mirror was right, again.
Section 3. The Addiction.
This is where we really start to track Emma's psychological shift. She goes from being a highly grounded, investigative journalist to this completely obsessed victim. Night after night, at exactly midnight, the whispers keep coming. The mirror is feeding her a constant, steady diet of undeniable truths. It told her exactly who was lying, who was cheating, who was just pretending. Every single secret it revealed turned out to be 100% accurate. The mirror never ever made a single mistake.
Just think about what that kind of absolute, infallible certainty does to a human mind. Emma just completely descended into pure paranoia. She stopped asking her friends for advice. She stopped trusting her own well-honed journalistic instincts. Actually, scratch that, she basically stopped sleeping altogether. She completely abandoned her own judgment until the only thing she trusted was the mirror itself. She was just standing in front of it every single midnight, totally desperate for her next fix of the truth.
Section 4. The Final Truth. Weeks later, this comfortable, predictable little pattern suddenly breaks. The mirror doesn't just whisper this time. It speaks up clearly, telling her there is one final truth left. Emma steps closer to the glass and asks, "What truth?" The mirror goes dead silent for several agonizing seconds before answering, "You are not alone." Instantly, every single light in her apartment goes completely out, plunging everything into this dead, heavy silence. The apartment is just pitch black.
Suddenly, the electricity surges back on. Emma immediately looks back at the mirror. Her reflection is still right there on the glass, but something is horrifyingly wrong. The reflection has stopped copying her.
Emma throws her right hand up in a total panic. But the reflection in the mirror? It just keeps both of its hands resting down at its sides.
Her breathing is just getting faster and faster. And then, the reflection slowly begins to smile. But Emma is absolutely not smiling. She is just completely paralyzed by total horror as she realizes she's not looking at herself anymore. She's looking at an entirely separate entity.
The tension in that room must have been suffocating. The smiling reflection lifts a single finger, and it points right behind her. Emma, breathing heavily, terrified way beyond belief, actively refuses to turn around. She just keeps her eyes completely glued to the glass, way too terrified to look at whatever is standing right there in her actual bedroom.
The smiling reflection leans forward in the glass. Its smile grows even wider, and it delivers one final whisper. It says, "Good choice." Because if you had turned around, you would have seen me standing there. And with that absolutely horrifying revelation, the glass suddenly shatters into 1,000 pieces.
Section 5. The Aftermath.
That violent climax leaves us with a totally shattered apartment, a missing journalist, and a hauntingly cold crime scene. Let's look at the sterile, completely inadequate facts the police actually had to work with the next morning. Neighbors reported hearing a loud scream. Authorities found broken glass scattered all across the floor. But the bedroom was completely empty. There were no signs of forced entry, no fingerprints, literally no physical evidence whatsoever. Emma had simply, impossibly, disappeared into thin air.
But the police did find one singular, chilling detail. Out of the entire destroyed mirror, exactly one single, jagged piece remained clinging to the wall. And violently scratched right into the surface of that final piece of glass were exactly 7 words.
The truth always takes someone with it. 7 simple words. It serves as the ultimate, tragic irony for a brilliant journalist who spent her entire life tirelessly seeking the truth, only to be entirely consumed by it in the end. The source material ends with a pretty chilling rumor. Some say the mirror was destroyed for good that night, but others say it's actually still out there, quietly appearing in dusty antique shops across the country, just waiting for someone curious enough to look inside. So, let me leave you with this to think about. If you ever walk past a silver-framed mirror and you hear a soft whisper calling your name, will you answer? Just remember what happened to Emma, and whatever you do, maybe keep walking. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and stay curious, but definitely stay cautious out there.